Welcome to the Zach Show, Romans chapter 10. Let's get into it. Just play the title. I'm telling myself. Anyway, play the title.
My name is Zach, and it's my show. You know what else? I'm at my home. In my basement, you know it, recording on the phone, and I think it's just about the time for us to dive right in. Let's go. Welcome to the Zach Show. Wow.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Zach Show. If you don't know, my name is Zach, and this is my show. So, anyway, today we're diving into Romans chapter 10. There's only 16 chapters. I say only. It's a healthy chunk of chapters. There's 16 chapters in the book of Romans, so I'm going to have to figure out what to do after chapter 16. I don't have anything planned right now. I guess I have 6 weeks to figure it out. So, but we're hitting chapter 10 today. I mean, this was a good one. It was 16 weeks worth of content to go through every single chapter. So who knows? I thought about the Sermon on the Mount. So a lot of shorter chunks of scripture, but more in-depth stuff. I don't know. It could be cool. Could be something cool that we do. Anyway, you guys, if you've watched this before, you know how it works. We dive into some trivia first, and then we get into the content. The trivia is just for funsies. And the reason why I do it is because I wanted to find a way to help connect me with you guys via podcast form, whether it be video or audio or anything like that. And the only thing I can think of was trivia. So if you have a better idea of how to connect, I'm trying to get some guests on. Life happens. And two of the guys I was trying to get on didn't work out. They can still get on. We're still working on it. We're going to keep working on it. But yeah, it's going to be a good time. Anyway, the first thing we like to do on the Zach Show, if you've never watched before, is to answer the cliffhanger question from last week. The cliffhanger question is a question that we ask every week, but we don't answer. We answered the following week. So here's last week's cliffhanger question. It is this. According to a survey, this is the most popular vacation destination. What is it? According to a survey, this is the most popular vacation destination. The answer is, you've been waiting all week for this one, Hawaii. Who would have known? Who would have known? This is the second time Hawaii has come up in a cliffhanger question. So I think that means I need to go to Hawaii. I've never been, and that would be exciting. So anyway, the answer is Hawaii is the most popular vacation destination. I've heard it's as expensive as all get out. So anyway, let me know. I've never been there. I hear it's a great place. I hear it's a good time. Let's dive into some trivia. I thought I'd go random Bible trivia this time around just for funsies. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Matthew, this is the first question. Matthew was a blank. Matthew was a blank. Before he became a disciple of Jesus, what was his profession? Matthew was a blank. Is it A, a fisherman, B, a carpenter, C, a tax collector, or D, a government official? A, B, C, or D? And the answer is C, tax collector. I had to look at my notes because I couldn't remember which answer tax collector was. It's C, tax collector. He was a tax collector. In fact, if you've ever watched The Chosen, it's one of my favorite scenes so far. I'm in season 4, so I don't know a whole lot. I know there's a couple more seasons or one more season, and they're working on the 6th. I'm not sure. But I love the scene where Jesus calls Matthew to come and follow him. I think it was really well done. I think it's great. Some great dialogue between the other disciples and Jesus and all the stuff that happens within The Chosen that I think is just really good. So what you have to remember with The Chosen is it's not scripture. We got to remember that sometimes. But they do a very good job of filling in the gaps around the scripture, like what conversations would have been had, what was life like, and all that stuff. So anyway, they do a really good job with it. The next question is this. In what city was Jesus born? I should have saved this question for the Christmas time. We'll bring it back around. You probably won't remember it by then. Anyway, what city was Jesus born? Is it A, Nazareth, B, Bethlehem, C, Egypt, or D, Rome? In what city was Jesus born? A, B, C, or D? The answer is, forgot to breathe, B, Bethlehem. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. He was from Nazareth, but because of all the stuff that went down in the Christmas story, if you ever read through it, he was born in Bethlehem in a stable, put into a manger, aka feeding trough. Our last question is this: after Jesus fed 5,000 plus people with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, how many baskets were left over? Is it A, 5, B, 7, C, 21, or D, 12? The reason why we say 5,000 plus people is because in that time period, they probably would have only counted the men. Fun fact. So it probably was a lot more than 5,000. So after Jesus fed 5,000 plus people with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, how many baskets were left over? The answer is D, 12. 12 baskets. They didn't even start with 12 baskets, but they were left over with 12 baskets. That must have been a crazy thing to experience as a disciple. Like, did they pull some bread out of their basket and then it just didn't go empty? I don't know. It must have been just an insane thing to experience. So that's all the trivia questions that I got, other than, of course, the cliffhanger question that we're going to answer next week. So remember, we don't answer the cliffhanger question this week. We answer it next week. And the cliffhanger question is this: more than 90% of people hate it when they get blank. More than 90% of people hate it when they get blank. What do you think the answer is? Put it in the comments. Tune in next week to find out what that answer is. But without further ado, we're going to dive into some content. And as I'm saying this, I feel like I should have grabbed a cup of water because I'm very parched. I did some yard work before this, and I was very sweaty. It's July, so it's very humid outside. And it was basically dark. The sun wasn't even shining, and just sweating bullets. You can't see it. I dried off. But that's the world that I lived in for a little bit there. Anyway, we're diving into Romans chapter 10. You guys already know this. So this one, I didn't split up into any kind of sections. It's the whole shebang. So we're going to read the entire chapter, and then we're going to go through and talk about it. But there's 21 verses. So go ahead and crack open those Bibles. I got mine here. I love this thing. It's got some dust, some fuzz on it there. I think the fuzz came from my backpack. But anyway, this Bible has seen better days. My dog chewed it one time. If you can see, I don't know if you can see, there's like some, thankfully she only chewed the corner, so she didn't really mess anything up. Just gave it a cool little battle scar there. But anyway, we're going to read chapter 10, the entire thing. So bust out those Bibles, get out those lightsabers, as I like to say. We're going to read through this whole chapter, and then we're going to just break it down a little bit. We're just going to talk about it a little bit. I say break it down. We're going to talk about things that stick out to me. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, feel free to drop in the comments anything that sticks out to you, anything I didn't mention, anything like that. Love to hear it. So without further ado, Romans chapter 10. Let's go ahead and get into it. Here's what it says. Brothers and sisters, my heart's desire and prayer to God for the Israelites is that they may be saved. For I can testify about them that they are zealous for God, but their zeal is not based on knowledge. Since they did not know the righteousness of God and sought to establish their own, they did not submit to God's righteousness. Christ is the accumulation of the law, so that there may be righteousness for everyone who believes. Moses writes this about the righteousness that is by the law. The person who does these things will live by them. But the righteousness that is by faith says, do not say in your heart, who will ascend into heaven, that is to bring Christ down, or who will descend into the deep, that is to bring Christ up from the dead. But what does it say? The word is near you, it is in your mouth and in your heart. That is the message concerning faith that we proclaim. If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. As Scripture says, anyone who believes in him will never be put to shame. For there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all that richly blesses. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can we call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. But not all the Israelites accepted the good news. For Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed our message? Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Christ. But I ask, did they not hear? Of course they did. Their voice has gone out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. Again I ask, did Israel not understand? First Moses says, I will make you envious by those who are not a nation. I will make you angry by a nation that has no understanding. And Isaiah boldly says, I was found by those who did not seek me. I revealed myself to those who did not ask for me. But concerning Israel, he says, all day long I have held out my hands to a disobedient and obstinate people. So let's go ahead and dive into this. One of the biggest verses that sticks out to me in this chapter, and that's really all this stuff is what's sticking out to me, like I already said. It's verse 9, and let me just reread it for you here. It says, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. I don't think we can get any more clear than that. How do you get to heaven? How do you get saved? You confess that Jesus is Lord. You believe it. And I think one of the biggest ways that you show that you believe someone or believe in someone is that you entrust your life over to them. Our senior pastor, he has this example, and you have to forgive me, I don't remember all the names or anything like that, but it was a dude doing a tightrope thing, and he's walking a tightrope, and he walks to the other side of this giant canyon, and he walks back, and then he gets to the crowd of people who are watching him, and he says, who thinks I can take this wheelbarrow across? And everyone cheers like, yeah, you can totally do it. And then he gets the wheelbarrow, and he walks across the tightrope, and then he comes back, and then he says, who thinks I can take a person in this wheelbarrow across the tightrope? And everyone's like, yeah, you can totally do it. And then he looks at him, and he says, who wants to get in? And no one cheers. It's kind of like our relationship with Jesus, right? It's like you can believe it. You can believe in God, but you got to get in the wheelbarrow. You know, you got to hop in. You got to actually put that trust into his hands. That's what it's talking about when it's talking about believe. You can play devil's advocate a little bit and say, you know, even the devil believes in God, right? Like he believes that God exists. So it's got to be more than just believing, right? And it's you actually trusting your life with him, that the plan he has for you is a good one, that you trust that plan with everything that you got. I'm not saying you got to be perfect. I'm not saying that. But you got to trust him. But it's pretty clear. How do you get to heaven? If you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And I feel like the rest of this chapter is a bit of a wake-up call to the Christians. And in the time period of Paul writing this, it would have been to the Jews in Rome and their view of the Gentiles. But for us, we can look at it as a letter to Christians about the people we deem unworthy. You know, like who are the Gentiles in our life? Because I know a lot of times people of Jewish inheritance, they claim to be Jewish by bloodline. And really a lot of what Jesus is doing is like, it's not about the bloodline anymore. You know, it's about whether or not you're confessing what verse 9 is talking about. Are you confessing that Jesus is Lord, right? And I feel like it's a little bit of a wake-up call because what he's saying, or what I think he's saying, is that the people who don't fit into our box of what a Christian should look like or what a Christian should do, those people are chasing Jesus. If we want those people to come into the church, we got to stop acting like we're better than everyone else or that we're holier than thou or anything like that, man. One thing I encountered a lot of when I was in college was, I went to Christian University. I went to Liberty University. I don't want to bash them or anything because this isn't a Liberty thing. This is a people who went to Liberty thing. And I noticed three kind of groups of people. If I had to stereotype everyone into one of three groups. Group number one, were legit amazing human beings. Right. That's the first group. The second group are the people who just like didn't really want to be there. Right. They were kind of forced to go there. It's where their parents went, whatever it is. They really wanted no business to do with Liberty, but they had to be there. The third group of people I would classify as like the super Christians. The ones who think that they are the best Christian to ever be a Christian, or, you know, the holier than thou kind of mindset. But I remember one time I was walking out of the dining hall, and I didn't go to church that day, and Catherine, who's my wife now, was with me, and some people came up to us like, "What church did you go to today?" And I said, "Bedside Baptist, what up?" If you don't know, it's a joke, meaning that I slept in that day. So it was a Sunday where I didn't go to church. I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. So anyway, I make that joke, and they just stared at me like I had spoken the devil's words or something like that. So I ended up just walking away. I think I said something like, I didn't know those were the devil's words, and then I walked out. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a bad reaction on my part, whatever. But I think ultimately speaking, we can't turn into the super Christians. You know, we can't be so fixated on what people are wearing or what they're doing or anything like that. Like, we gotta stop acting like we're perfect. And even when it comes down to like the church that you attend, we gotta stop acting like our church is perfect or our pastor is perfect or that I'm perfect. We need to start looking at people from the lens that we have found Jesus. And I so desperately want to point you to him as well, because there's no perfect church. There's no perfect pastor. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect example or anything like that, but I do know a perfect God. And everything that I do is just me trying to point people to Jesus, even if it's just one person. I had an event one time where I had no clue how many people were going to show up, you know, and that's always fun. When you throw an event, you're like, I don't know, like I've advertised it, I've put it together, I got volunteers, kind of living in a field of dreams mindset, you know, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And so someone asked me, they're like, so what's the plan if like 5 people show up? Like, do you have a plan B? And I remember looking back at them and just being like, there's no plan B. If one person comes, we're going big. We're doing this big. You know, and it was our worship team leading worship, and I was given a message, and we were going hard. You know, like that was the plan. And if it's one person, my mindset is they're about to have the best night of worship of their life. You know, and that's kind of my mindset in a lot of things. You know, like leading a connect group. I've dealt with other connect group leaders before that were like, yeah, like only 2 of them came to the connect group. I'm like, that's the perfect connect group. It's a perfect small group. Go get ice cream or something. Like, you have the luxury of not having 10 people right now. Like, you can take those 2 guys who showed up to your connect group and go do something with them that they're going to remember and have fun and just enjoy each other's company for a little bit. So I think a lot of this chapter is just Paul coming in and being like, man, you guys look down on the Gentiles a lot, but they're chasing Jesus, or they're wanting him, you know? And I think if this letter was written to us today, it'd be looking at Christians and be like, man, if you guys don't think that they fit into your little box, like, you're wrong. This is not even a box that we should be looking at when it comes to people who should or should not follow Jesus. It's everyone. Everyone has an opportunity to follow Jesus, and we can't be so worried about how that fits into our box. You know, we can't be worried about if they're wearing a tie or a suit or a T-shirt or whatever, man. What we need to be worried about is people coming to know Jesus. And we got to stop thinking that we're perfect or that we're such a good Christian, because we're not. Right? Like, I mean, let's be real. Like, we're flawed individuals. We mess up and screw up just as much as anybody else out there does, whether we have Jesus in our life or not. I think the biggest difference, or at least what should be the biggest difference, is when we do mess up and we do screw up, we run back to Christ with it. We seek forgiveness from people or whoever it is. And I think that's going to speak volumes to a lot of people, that we are willing to admit our faults. There's too many people out there who will just basically say, it's kind of like a politician mindset, where no matter what they say, they will spin it to be right, even if they're wrong. You know, they could come out one day and be like, 2 + 2 is 5. 2 + 2 is 5. And then like a few weeks later, someone will call them out and be like, you know, that's actually 4, right? And they'll be like, well, I didn't necessarily say that it was 5. I was trying to tell you, like, this is the wrong way to do the problem. And, you know, it's like they have to try and, like, there's people out there that want to try and spin every little thing that they do so that they are always right. And I think it's going to speak volumes to people when we can come in and just be like, you know what, I was wrong. I think that kind of stuff is going to point people to Jesus too. You know, and like I said, there's no perfect church. There's no perfect pastor. I'm not a perfect example. But there is a perfect God. So I'm not here to save anybody. I can't save anybody. That's not my job. You know, my job is to point people to the one who can. The rest is up to them. You know? So, anyway, thanks for joining the Zach Show and listening. A little bit shorter of an episode today. Nothing too crazy. Next week, obviously, it's going to be Romans chapter 11. I was going to flip to that chapter. My Bible went way ahead. I got some pages clumped together here. But yes, chapter 11 I think is going to be great. So make sure you're tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Do all the things that you're supposed to do. We're right at like the 20-minute mark. So it's a little bit shorter. Typically we hit about 30, but we're at 20. So, you know, who cares? Who cares? Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. I really have a good time doing this. But like, comment, subscribe. Do all the things that you're supposed to do. And that's all I got for you today, man. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
My name is Zach, and this is my show. You know what else? I'm at my home. In my basement, you know it, recording on the phone, and I think it's just about the time for us to dive right in. Let's go. Welcome to the Zach Show. Wow.